in this video, which is part 10 of how to create a custom candlestick chart in Chart.js, we're going to focus on the moving average line here. And what we're going to do is we're going to create the moving average based on historic data to predict the future data, or basically to plot the lines along here. So this is very important. And what we make sure is that it will be dynamic enough that if we have a bigger line, it automatically plots those lines as well, and it can adjust to a higher moving average, for example 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, etc, etc. So let's start to look how we can do that. So let's start to look now how we can create a proper simple moving average. So right now we have this one here, but this moving average, as I indicated in the previous video, just doesn't feel correct. And the reason why is you want to use your historic data to predict the future. But in this case, basically, it does exactly the opposite. We get our future data and then we are not really predicting the future. We just look at history as well, which is fine. But I feel like this is not really a moving average chart that I would personally use. So what I want to do is, based on our historic data, so if you have our closing data points of these three, we would draw the line from this point on and keep on going. Because that would be more better to predict the future, so you can anticipate if you should invest yes or no. That is the reason why we have a moving average. So I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to do a adjustment here. So in the previous video I already used this, but what I want to do is I'm just going to comment this out. We won't be using this, and I'm going to just redo it. And now for our case, which is the correct moving average. So what I will do here, we're going to create a for loop. So say for, let's say let I equals 0, let's say semicolon I, then of course here loop this based on the closing price dot length, and a semicolon I plus plus for a increment increase. So once we have this, what I want to do is I want to create a constant for the mean value, and this mean value is based, and we're going to use here basically the slice method. So the slice method is a option in the array to slice a specific part of the array that we can create a specific constant for. So basically, like if you have a pie, you slice a piece of the pie, and that part is basically what you will keep, while the others you will ignore. So in our case, what we want to do is we want to have 3 items in our array. Even if our array would be 100 items, we only want the slice of the 3 items here. So what I'm going to say here, first of all, I need to specify the array, which is closing price array, and then we're going to say slice method. So we say slice, and then the slice will be based on the I minus the average here, and make sure we have the I average here. So why this? Because this would indicate the starting point of our item. Normally it's 0, but if we go minus this, it will deduct, it will be minus 0, and then of course that will be an undefined value, which we're going to give a proper value for that as well. But afterwards, once we're passing the 1, 2, and 3, then it will keep on looping forward. So that's fine. So then what I want to do is based on I. So basically I want to have my historic data, 3 data points back, and then here to get the current data point as well. So this is the slice we want. So once we have this, I need to make here a function error expression. And we have to make sure that this here has correct amount of parentheses. And we have here, let me double check what's going on here. Oh, sorry, this is not even necessary, my bad. So we delete all of these additional parentheses. So this is the first item. What this truly does is, if I do now console log, we say here the mean, save, refresh, open up developer tab. As you can see here, it will loop through it multiple times. But then when I click on it, for every item, it will grab here the items here, and as you can see here, if you pay carefully attention, this one here is index 0, and oh, I should avoid that one. Sorry, let me refresh again. That one starts here, but you will see the first 3 items is basically a blank array. Why is it a blank array? Because it loops through the first 3, which is minus a specific value, which is not recognized in a array. So these 3 will be just blank. We will later on give an undefined value. So we'll say this is just blank, ignore it completely. And then this one here will start at June 4 and onward. Why June 4 and not June 3? Well, I realize if you don't have yet the data of June number 3, of June, the 3rd of June, you should not be able to create a line here because you assume that the closing time will come on that moment. So the closing time would be that you should pass June 3 or at least after the closing of the stock market. So in this case, it would be more appropriate to calculate these all together and then predict the future date. And later on, as you progress, you will see this will work nicely. So we have this now here, and I guess that should, I hope you understand the logic of that. That's the most important one. Now, what I want to do is we have this array, but what I want to do is I want to sum the value of this. So we're going to use the reduce method, and the reduce method is basically reducing all the values in an array into one single value. So what I'm going to say here is constant total sum, and this will be the total sum will be equal the mean dot reduce. I'm going to say here we're going to create a formula. It's total comma value, and the value we're going to make sure that this is a function or expression, and I need to make sure the parenthesis here, and we have one here, curly braces, and then we're going to say here we're going to return. And what are we going to return? We're going to return the total value, which is from the array, but it's a cumulative value, so it will keep on adding up. It's a sum plus value. And basically, if you have 3 items, 1 plus or 1.1 plus 1.2 makes 2.3, and then plus whatever that next value would be, and we'll keep on adding it up. So that is all here correct. So once I have this, what I do need to do here, and I realize that we forgot about that, we have to make sure that we have an if statement here. And this if statement would basically make sure that we have our mean, the length, and then we'll block it if we have an average. It must be equal to average 3. So meaning, or basically what we want, make sure that the value will show 3 data points at least, because at that moment it becomes a valid item to do a moving average. So I'm going to cut out this item, put it in there. So we have this here, and we have the total sum, but of course we're not done. The average, so we say here, what we want to do is, we want to say this total sum, and let's make sure we have an S here, divide by the average. So then we have that, but of course I'm going to make this a constant, or not even, we don't even have to do a constant here. I want to push that into this moving average array. So if I do that, dot push, then we push this value in there, and this should work properly. Well, what I want to do here now is first of all do a console log, just to see what we have. Say here, grab the moving average, save that, and then if there's any other console log, none. Alright, if I save this now, go back here, refresh. Alright, interesting, we get this here, but as you can see here, this here is still not correct. So what we have to do is, let's double check, this is all fine, that one is all fine. Let's see, we have here the closing price. What we can do here, let's see where we have. What we have to do here probably is at least to block off, but I'm surprised here it is calculating this not correctly. Say if the mean length equals average, which is number 3, then we can say here an else. We're going to say here else if the moving average, and else the moving average should be equal to dot push undefined. Oh, undefined is not a string value. So if I save that, we should have this. Alright, so then we only have to check here, why is this not responding accordingly? We should be here up. So I'll just double check here, or did I have here anything else calculated? Moving average, no, everything is fine here. So let me just check this quickly. After looking at it, sorry, I forgot here, I put here a comma. This is of course not allowed. It returns this with comma, that doesn't make any sense, sorry. It should be a plus, because we want the total plus value. That's the loop that we want to go through here. If I refresh this, now we get this. This is for me a far more better item, and it makes more sense because it grabs the last 3 dates of data points and draws or plots the line here. What I want to do now, just to make sure, if I'm going to add up new data points, let's see what happens then. So we should have that tested. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put in 2 more data points, but of course this will be 9. And this is 10, and here what I'm going to do here, and I realize here if I look at this here very quickly, look, we have here a value that's not consistent. All right, so then we're going to say here 85, and I'm going to make, I will keep that at 250. I will keep the low as well, like that, and our closing will be 199. This will be 85, 199, and then we have another one here. This is 199, and then this will be 225, and the low will be I guess here 180, and then we hit here at 205, and that sounds very positive also, but that's alright. We're just going to test the data here. Alright, so open and close, save this, refresh. There we are. As you can see, it starts to progress nicely, and it creates our line here nicely. And this is basically the way. Now we can extend this more, and the reason why we can extend this more is because if you scroll down here, we had this whole formula with the moving average, and all we can do now is just say here, instead of 3 we can do 4, save, and it will just change, and it will do now the right item. And with this we can of course extend this to 10 or more, or how many you want, but now it's flexible enough in the formula to calculate. So that is basically how you can do the moving average. I guess there's still some other lines, but what I want to, before I even do that, I guess I realized that our tooltip doesn't show here the moving average, so we should have a tooltip here, or maybe something else, at least a crosshair at least, showing some additional items. So in the next video we're going to create a crosshair where we will create lines on when we are on the bar, and then maybe find a way for showing the moving average value.